Welcome back, guys and girls. Today I'm doing a project that I've never done before, welding aluminum. So I'm using these Harris rods that a friend of mine gave me years ago, and I just, never really had the opportunity to use them. But this is one of those Amazon tri-folding ramps that originally they claimed they were 1,500 pound capacity. And then when they all started breaking, they started saying, oh, well, that's 500 pounds per section spread evenly over the entire section. Yeah, well, I already had it, it's just barely wide enough for my big zero-turn mower. And so it's got to the point where it really needed repairs. And so I thought, hey, I'll try the aluminum welding rod. What I'm using is one of these cheapo and deli welders. One of the first things I can tell you is the digital display on these, when it says 50, that's not 50 amps, or at least it doesn't appear to be. So they recommend on this rod, you run 50 to 85 amps. I had it set at about 80 and it was just burning holes like crazy. Finally decided, after playing with it, that 30 on the dial is just a little bit too cold and 35 is just a little bit too hot for this really thin metal here. And I mean, you can see it's thin. If it's 1/8 of an inch, and it's probably not, then it's barely that. So I don't know, 31, 33 on the dial on that thing seems to work, and you still have to play all of your heat on the large section. And if you've never welded with aluminum rod before, it's odd. It's kind of like you're heating the metal with the arc and then throwing solder at it. If you move too fast, it doesn't leave anything. If you move too slow, it burns through. And I mean, basically, you are striking an arc and moving around until the metal drips off of the rod and goes, and that's, the best way I can describe it. One of the things that is pretty annoying about these rods, they do work. Every time you stop, every time you stop, it's not going to focus. It coats the end of the rod and it won't strike an arc. So best way I've found to overcome that is with a rasp or a rough file. You have to chip every pass, and I mean, if you start to strike an arc and it doesn't really lay anything down, you have to chip that because it left flux on there. So I'll flip this thing back over and I'll show you my very first weld. Okay, so here's a comparison. This is factory weld. This is a weld I just did. It's not pretty, but it looks like it stuck. The main problem is trying to get back into those. And I've got a couple of those that are completely broke that I'll have to work on. Okay, so this was the very first weld I attempted. Horrible. It burnt through. I had to fill it in. But yeah, horrible. And so I basically did this side as I was going along. Then I went over to this side. And, I'd like to tell you I did practice. But I don't know, it just seems kind of random. And one thing I did notice was when you start with a new rod, that long rod seems to burn differently, like hotter. And then as you get about halfway down, it seemed to kind of tame out and you could control it. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But anyway, so guys, if I can do it, because I'm a crappy welder and I've never welded aluminum before, if I can do it with a cheap welder, you guys can do it too. So get out there and fix your stuff. Thanks for watching.